studies. Who did I leave out? Peter. Who? Oh, theater. Yeah. Drama theater, yes. English language arts. All right. So we know who's here. Hi, my name is Dr. Charlie Warren, and I'm the professor of record for this zero credit course. But this really is where we check all of your records and where you are in the process to make sure that you have all your ducks neatly lined up in a row and you're really ready to go out and be successful at the world's longest job interview. I mean, student teaching. Okay, so take good notes. We have several really important things for you this evening. First of all, I want to introduce to you the director of the School of Teacher Ed, our assistant dean, associate dean, Dr. Jenny Wong.
Thank you very much. Okay, yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. And I don't think this is your first time to see me, right? Yeah, I think many of you have seen you. Actually, I saw you when you just got into the program. That is the EDFE 110. Remember that? Okay, that is supposed to be my first time to see all the teacher candidates getting into the program. So I'm not going to talk too much because I talked a lot last time. But I'm really here to congratulate you. You are one more step closer to achieving your goal of becoming a classroom teacher. Is that right? Yeah. Okay, so you're getting ready to apply for student teaching placement, and there are tons of things you are going to take into consideration. And I would just like you to continue to do a good job. Keep up the good work that you have done so far. And tons of information will be given to you, but I really would like you to consider two things that I want to mention at this point. One is the shortage of teachers in the whole nation, and of course Colorado, okay? And for the shortage of teachers, there is really a kind of urgent need for teachers to get into the rural area, which is something that will be talked about today, okay? Another thing that I would like you to take into consideration is that the university has been working really, really hard to further internationalize not only the campus, but your education, which really means we're trying to get the people from all over the world to come to campus. At the same time, we really encourage you to get out of the country, okay? To be exposed to international settings. So this is another thing I would like you to consider for student teaching abroad. So this is another information that will be given to you as well, okay? So these are the two things. There are other important things, but these are the two things I just want to, touch upon a little bit in this very, very brief talk. So finally, I would like you to, again, keep up the good work, and I really wish you success in the application of student teaching, actually. And GPA is important, okay? Keep that up, because otherwise you are going to be in trouble. And Dr. Warren is going to talk about the other requirements. The test is another thing you're going to talk about. Okay, so that's all I would like to share with you for this 1 or 2 minute talk. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. So yes, one of the things that I hope you've checked into already, I don't know about you, but I'm freezing down here. It's like all the cool air comes down. As cool as it is up there, I think it's 10 degrees cooler down here. It's like being in an ice bath down here. Anyway, this class has a Canvas shell. If you haven't visited it, you should. There is a packet, and there are materials that are due, and we will go over those later in the program. But in case you haven't checked that, don't check it now. Please don't get your phone out and check it out. But those are things that you should consider. Now, one thing I do want to bring up right now is, as long as Jenny has talked about it, you have many opportunities as to the types and kinds of places where you may student teach or where you may start your career. I've had many, many colleagues over my 40-year career. I've been a science teacher for most of that time. Go science. How many of you saw the eclipse? How many of you went to Wyoming to see the eclipse? Yay! But I've also been a hiring manager as a principal and as a superintendent. And I've worked at the state level, I've worked at the national level. I mean, there are so many opportunities for educators, especially in this time of shortage. Okay, one other opportunity for you that is a huge area of need are rural schools, and I would like you to consider those. We have a center for rural education. Without stealing any of her thunder, I want to introduce to you Megan Quitter, who is the, are you the director?
I wish.
You
No,
wish,
I'm
no. She works at the rural
coordinator.
schools.
Right,
The coordinator,
exactly.
right. Very good.
Hello, everybody. I didn't actually go to Wyoming. I went to Kentucky for the eclipse because that's where we had 2 minutes and 40 seconds of the eclipse. Love the views.
Nice.
Yeah, so I grew up like all over the place. I ended up in Colorado 17 years ago to do outdoor ed. And I was working a lot with like fire mitigation and defensible space and pine bark beetle and having kids come up for their outdoor education experience. And then I went back and I got my master's in education in ed psych, and I taught 3rd and 4th grade in math and science for like 3 or 4 years. But it was a private school and it shut down, so I've done other things in education, but now I'm working with rural ed. So it's not something that you guys probably heard a lot of, but there are 147 school districts in Colorado. Well, there's 178 in all of Colorado. 147 of them are rural. So what I love about Colorado is the outdoors. I love the mountains. I love being out there to do all of the outdoor recreation that there is with rock climbing and skiing and rafting and hunting and all of those things I'm very into. So if you haven't considered it yet, you don't have to go to Poudre or Thompson or Weld County or Greeley or any of those school districts. There's 147 around Colorado that you can choose. And if you choose your student teaching in a rural school district, I have scholarship money for you. $2,800 for each student who goes into a rural school district. That way you're not working for free and also paying to work for free. So if it's something that you haven't considered before, think about it. There's such a great need across the state for good teachers that like math teachers, science teachers, a lot of ag actually is needed throughout. But if there's ever a spot that you've thought of teaching, I can probably get you a student teaching position there. My last name is Quitter. The irony is not lost on me that I'm recruiting and retaining teachers for schools, and my last name is Quitter. Yeah, so it should be easy to remember. Megan Quitter, and I do work here. Well, about a year ago, they passed a Senate bill, 16-104, 16's a year. You can look up Senate Bill 104. UNC got that bid so that we have scholarship money now for student teachers who choose a rural school district, as well as if there are teachers in currently, or if you decide to teach in a rural school district, the state will pay $6,000 for you to go back and get your concurrent enrollment license. That way you can be working at a university, or like a community college, and at a high school, so that students can get dual credit. Or if you wanted to go back and get your National Board Teaching Scholarship or teaching certification, if you're in a rural school district, I have $6,000 for that also. So lots of opportunities. The state is really trying to push to get teachers out to rural districts. I have cards here and information about the scholarships. So just put it on your plate. If it hasn't, if it's not something that's been on your mind, think about it, because out of a lot of states in the whole nation, Colorado is fantastic, especially in our more remote areas. So Megan Quitter, thank you very much.
I thought this year I'd jazz it up a little bit and throw some humor in. Where I was a superintendent, it was a little bitty rural school district nearly the size of Connecticut with 200 students. It's a different culture. One of the things I would ask you to consider is the culture from which you think you come, the culture to which you think you belong, what kind of a school would you like to be in? You are going to have lots of choices. For most of you, it's not going to be a question of, can I find a job? It's, which job do I apply for and which one do I get? I mean, yes, there are districts that are hard to get into. The highest paid district in the state, I think, is still Boulder Valley, and of course everybody wants to go there. And there were schools that opened this year without teachers in some of their classrooms. So it's a remarkable time to become a teacher. Now, last year, there were about 2,400 licenses given in the state of Colorado for teachers. And last year, UNC certified nearly 1,000 of those. So we are well known. We have been for many, many years. If you're going to be a teacher, this is the place from which to come, right? You are in the right place at the right time. So like that. So there are a number of things that you have already done by going through your PTEP classes, making sure that as you go through, you have met your GPA. Part of your 130 packet is to make sure that you've checked your GPA or that your advisor has checked your GPA. It's different for different programs. And make sure that that is either signed off by your advisor, or if you're in elementary, you have that written down on your PTEP planning form. Okay, the GPA is very important. The highest GPAs at UNC are education and nursing. Okay, it's important. We need to be competitive out in that world, right? In addition, you need, before you can be placed, to have passed your praxis test, okay? Now, you may have taken and passed the old PLACE test. Okay, PLACE was the Colorado-specific test, and it's still valid. Those results are still valid for 5 more years, if that's the test you have. In your 130 packet, you need to provide evidence that you have passed your test, okay? Or in some cases, tests, right? Elementary, 4 tests, right? Whoo-wee! 5001 includes 02, 03, 04, and 05. So check those out. Make sure you've done that. Now, while I'm bringing that up, you are going to be collecting a number of documents, like your praxis score sheet. You cannot lose that. Okay, do not send us originals. You need to have scanned copies of all your important papers saved in a place where they're not going to be lost. Okay, where would be the best place for that? I can tell you, when I student taught back in 1977, they told us to print it, get a good copy. A good copy of everything you need to have, wrap it in plastic, and keep it in the freezer. Anybody know why? That's right. It's the only part of your house that doesn't burn. The inside of your freezer. Now you don't have to do that. Where's the safe place to keep it now? Yeah, out in the cloud. Everything in the cloud is saved every 30 seconds on 7 different servers on 5 continents. If you post something off of on your Facebook, 7 servers, 5 continents, every 30 seconds, and they're not always the same ones. Those things are pretty safe. Well, that's also pretty permanent, so you got to be a little careful what you put out there, right? When you get your score sheet, you're going to get it electronically. Save it in the cloud. When you go eventually to apply for your teacher license with CDE, you're going to have to provide a copy of that. If you don't have it, you're going to have to get a hold of ETS, pay them $50, and wait 3 weeks. Okay, the first one you get just because you took it, right? All right, that's important. Meetings, yeah, we got that. And dispositions, well, that's pretty important, including have a good sense of humor. I hope by now you're familiar with this. Who remembers seeing these professional dispositions before? Okay, well, I'm going to post this slideshow up on the Canvas shell if you haven't seen it. Maybe you can't read it. I don't intend for you to read it from here. Part of what you need to remember when you're out in the schools is to be very, very professional. Like I was, sort of making a joke, but not so much. Student teaching is the world's longest job interview. Many of our student teachers do so well that they have a solid job offer to start before student teaching's over. That is actually not unusual. Last fall, there were 17 of those. Now, if that happens, make sure you let us know. That's one of the most important things, is communicate, communicate, communicate. That's about being professional. And, like I had said before about culture, every school is its own culture. You are there to fit in, not to change it. You're not there to tell your cooperating teacher how to teach. It's a good way to wind up with a new placement, unhappily. Okay? The teachers that have been relied on for your student teaching have been carefully chosen between Ms. Kerrigan and the school district. They are good teachers. Be nice, play nice, dress appropriately, act appropriately. During student teaching, you need to know with whom you can consult when you have issues. There is a kind of a chain of command. When you are student teaching, you have responsibilities to the students, to the cooperating teacher, to your student teaching supervisor, and to UNC. When you have issues, do you know where to go to get help? Okay, all of those things are very, very important. Okay? Basically speaking, there are two things that every parent wants from their child's teachers. Any idea what those two things are? Base level, two things.
Report cards.
Nah. Yes, don't hurt my child. That's really basic. That means don't send them home crying. Please do not send the math homework home for the parent to teach. Okay, then the parent starts crying. Then you have real trouble. Okay, what's the other thing that every parent wants? It's related to your report card comment. Yeah, they want them to know something, right? I think of this in another way. Control the dinner time conversation. Many families, believe it or not, still do sit down at night for dinner together. And what do you think they ask to get the conversation started? What happened at school today? You don't want them to talk about you slipping and falling on the floor. You do want them to be talking about what they learned in school today. Oh my gosh, you won't believe what we built! Did you know there's 4 different ways to spell this word? I learned that the best sentences are like this. Whatever it is, when a parent comes to you and says, "Oh, you're Miss Smith. We hear about you every night. You must be amazing," then you know you've got it done right, right? So don't hurt the children and teach them something.